You always hear tips for how men should embrace their feminine side and not be ashamed, but what are some masculine things women should embrace more? I like to fix stuff, work on the house, mow the lawn etc. And people always ask, shouldn't your husband be doing that? No. I'm a fully capable adult and he's doing something else just as important. People that don't let their daughters use tools and learn DIY skills are doing them a disservice in so many ways. It's a perfect avenue to develop career interests in engineering and the trades. Also, a basic understanding of projects and components is one of the keys to not getting screwed over by mechanics and contractors. My dad and his dad both love cars and owned a shop that restores and fixes them. Wouldn't even let me near the garage. My coworkers have to teach me about cars because I know is that you put gas in, and I had to YouTube how to change a flat. Sounds really shitty from your dad. Chris fixes your best helper. Best buy a Haynes manual for your car and you most likely can fix 95% of the stuff instead of getting screwed over by a shop. Thank you. It always ticked me off. Like, why do all the boys get to learn? The biggest lesson to learn is how to remove a seized bolt. There is more to learn about removing rusted, broken, and rounded bolts than any other part of working on a car. While it's technically the simplest part, it can be the difference between ready to drive tonight or missing work in the morning. The first tip is never use an adjustable wrench unless absolutely no other option is possible, including buying the right tool. It has earned every one of its nicknames. The Swedish bolt lathe, the nut ducker, and my personal favorite, the torque wrench, because as soon as it tightens a bolt to the proper torque it rounds the head off. I hope you become one heck of a home shop mechanic. Best of luck. My husband and I had lived on our own long enough before we met that we are both comfortable doing everything and anything. In fact, we just fixed our coffee pot this weekend. Together. He's been laid off, but I am working and in school, so he's been doing all the cooking. Now, should he add more veggies to his meals? Yes. But he's a good cook and the meals taste good, and it means I have more time in my day to relax. I spoke to someone who runs a waste collection company and he mentioned that he never gets female applicants for truck drivers. It's not even a really masculine job that's physically intensive. But for some reason it's considered a masculine job and that doesn't make sense. My husband works in that industry. It's also sexist as hell. Like, I won't listen to a female supervisor sexist. If he gets a female applicant, they usually end up quitting because they can't handle being frozen out of everything all the time. Exactly. This is why more women are needed in this industry to call out this behavior. A person's gender shouldn't be a detriment to their work life because of pig-headed attitudes. As a woman who left steel fabrication because the attitudes of the men I worked with, especially my bosses, were so horrific that I developed clinical burnout due to it. Sometimes things need changing before women can even begin to enter the field. I was the first woman on the factory floor, and trust me, nothing I could say or do would have changed those men. When the issue is that bad, the change has to come from other men first. Edit. And quite frankly, it wasn't my job to teach them to stop being disgusting. I was there to work, not to be the Mariah Von Trapp of the steel world. I worked as a welder for 1 year when I thought that was what I wanted to be, and it was mentally exhausting. I could never just do my work. There was always some man passing by, stopping to put in his 2 cents, taking my tools out of my hands, giving an unsolicited critique when he didn't even know the project. The interruptions were constant. On top of this, men had the idea that I would report them for sexual harassment if they so much as said good morning. So the work was alternately lonely and irksome. I also had big trouble keeping up physically, carrying giant ventilation vans and wire feeders, and having to be the one crawling into the worst corners because I was far smaller than any of the men. I messed up my knees. The idea that women are supposed to sacrifice their mental health 40+ hours a week to teach men to act right is horrible. I'd rather go to work and not hate my life. My goodness, I could have written that myself. I couldn't be more upset that you went through the same as I did, and I'm so glad you're out of that environment too now. The weird irrational fear of being reported for just being civil was a weird one, with how they had no problem being gross. I learned about a month before I resigned that the our department had sent out a SAD across the factory before I arrived, basically saying, don't harass the new girl, and whilst their intentions were good, it was the worst thing they could have done. The few men who weren't horrible were too scared to talk to me, and the majority who thought I wasn't even capable of lifting a 1 kilogram fitting, let alone a 40 kilograms end plate, didn't care, so they were disgusting anyway. Did you have a similar issue with rumors as I did at my factory? It was bad for it anyway with everyone, but the fact I'm a woman meant that they could think up some super fun sexual ones. Apparently there was a big discussion over how big my boobs might be when not squished by a sports bra. Lovely. Because I'm not very smiley, the men would gather and talk about hate ducking me to teach me my place. I was written up for not smiling enough at my boss. I'm not kidding. There were rumors about me and a male welder, who I honestly liked very much because he was the only one treating me like a normal person, and he was quite lovely. His associating with me got him into problems with the other men, as in, why are you talking to that bitch? So eventually he started keeping his distance at work, and I was back to eating lunch alone in my car like always. My eating disorder got pretty intense from all the stress, which made me physically weaker, which compounded the whole thing. Eesh. I just wanted to burn wire, not go all normally on the boat. But I was backed into this corner where I either had to fight every single day or just leave. I left and went into a medical trade that is mostly women, and now it's just the issues of being underpaid and called sweetheart, and the assumption that I don't need a living wage because a man will pay my way. My mother loves pointing out how women should always sit with their legs together. It is a different thing if I'm wearing a skirt or a dress, but if I'm wearing pajamas and at home, I can sit however it damn well pleases me. I wish less women listened to stuff like this. But people might see the crotch of your pants. Oh well. Right. I've never understood the issue. Women can wear bikinis, but God forbid we wear jeans and not sit with a penny between our knees. I think the Venn diagram of women who wear bikinis and women who care about holding a penny between their knees has a large intersection. In fact, I'd say it's about a penny. Related to this, how come women can't have a camel toe, but guys can have a bulge? Well, women have a camel toe if their pants are giving them a front wedgie, personal experience. Guys have a bulge if they're ahem, large, or if things have shifted out of position. Ladies have more control over it. For the record, both bother me visually. Also, some trousers give you a fake bulge and there is nothing you can do with it. Can confirm, had a band uniform once with a super long fly. Looked like a giant boner every time I sat down. Little awkward for a 14-year-old girl. As a guy, I can unfortunately confirm that probably 90% of the time it looks like I'm packing a full Polish sausage down my trousers. It's just because the fit of my pants means that if I sit, the material folds up and balloons out. Even if I were to press down on the bubble of empty space, it just springs back up. Not putting up with being pushed around is a good start. Many women, including myself, were brought up to be pleasant and unconfrontational. Sometimes it's necessary to tell someone back to F off. Or just writing an email that gets to the point. My female managers send crazy roundabout emails. CTT, hope you're doing well. Just wanted to touch base about the metalworking presentation. Really great job on this, we all love it. There were a couple slides in the draft, though, that I was wondering if maybe we could take another look at. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw in one of our manuals that maybe silicon carbide isn't recommended for friable materials. I may be getting this all wrong, but I just thought that might be something we should think about including. Sorry for bothering you. Let me know if you want to hop on a call and discuss. Whereas a male manager's email typically looks more like CTT, change slide 3 to say silicon carbide isn't recommended for friable materials GHX. Don't get me wrong, the roundabout style didn't magically appear. A lot of men are so fragile that they can't take direct criticism from a woman. But I feel bad for these editors who go out of their way to protect my ego. Ugh, I do this, and I hate it. It's learned behavior from years of shitty male group members in school. The only way to get them to use my good ideas was to convince them that they were 1, smarter than me, and 2, that the idea was their idea all along. I just helped. Otherwise they'd discount it out of hand. or complain that I'm bossy. Let's learn to be bossy. Word. Yard work, car maintenance, and other supposedly manly jobs around the house. My parents cringed when they found out I, a barely 5-foot woman, was catching and disposing of all the spiders and bugs in the house because my 6 feet 3 inches, giant hairy bear of a partner is terrified of them. He also does most of the cooking, and I take care of the heavy cat litter because poop grosses him out, and he for years was too scared to admit it because he thought I and our family would see him as less of a man. I know plenty of guys that wouldn't kill a spider if their life depended on it. I like bugs and spiders, so I often just release them outside, though my wife and I have a rule of no crawlers in the bedroom. I find them there and they're dead. The apartment I've lived in for 4 years gets an awful spider problem in the summer. At one time I had a dozen bites on my arms and neck. I told the office, and they sprayed for spiders, but it didn't work. I had to spray my bed and myself with peppermint or patchouli essential oil every night or I would get more bites. There is no mercy here for spiders. If you have this problem again, look into diatomaceous surf. Non-toxic and harmless to life forms higher than insects or arachnids. Working out. It can only improve your existence. They're always worried about looking too muscular, but it's very hard to gain noticeable muscle and takes some real conscious effort. I've heard women say that don't work out because they don't want to add muscle. I don't think people understand that it's hard to add muscle and you're not going to accidentally add huge muscle mass. Female lifter here. I wish I could accidentally add huge muscle mass. Do you know how happy I would be? You could accidentally fall onto some syringes with test in them. Accidentally. Joking, of course. Please don't do this. As a male, I also wish I could accidentally add muscle. Men these days definitely like girls who work out. Like it's stupid hard to put on the amount of muscle that men consider to be too much. Like as in you would need to use steroids. Exactly. A little bit of muscle is sexy as hell and too much muscle is almost impossible. I'll just say it, unless you won the genetic lottery on an ungodly level, you will not make into too much muscle category with casual level workout. I have had this talk with so many girls. I'm a female that is really into lifting weights. I have invited so many of my chick friends to come to the gym with me, and I often hear I don't want to become a man. My response is usually, well, don't inject anabolic steroids, or have a strict bodybuilding regimen and diet for years on end and you'll be fine. My aunt gave me a really cool piece of advice when I was younger that this post reminds me of. Backstory: I used to always ask her sons, my cousins, for help opening stuff, fixing things, etc. around the house. She seemed bothered by this in a way and said to me, before you ask a man for help, try one more time. So now I always try a difficult task one more time before asking for help, and it's crazy how many of these times I've done whatever it is by myself. It sounds small, but it's definitely empowering in a way. I have a theory that what you described is basically the magic ingredient behind old man strength. They've just gotten used to being the one who has to make it happen because there's nobody else to do the job. Just last night I was struggling to open a jar of sauce. I was getting frustrated, my fingers were hurting, my jar opener didn't fit the lid. My male partner was just in the next room, but I refused to admit defeat and ask him for help because I always feel so pathetic when I do. So I gave it one last try using every ounce of strength I could muster and it worked. My hand was throbbing afterwards but totally worth it. Point at it. I love how every comment is telling me easier ways to open jars. Just wanna rat, you're not pathetic for asking for help when it makes sense too. That's its own kind of strength. Carrying a pocket knife. Having pockets big enough to carry a knife. *having pockets in general. As a male I have no idea how you survive without pockets. I can fit entire graphing calculators in my pockets, and when clothing companies feel like giving women pockets they seem barely enough to fit your fingertips into. I will just add this. I work for a construction supplies company, basically an industrial hardware store. We mostly have male workers, but we do have a handful of female. I was recently put in charge of acquiring new uniforms for all of our staff. I purchased the pocketless pants for the woman, And the reasons I did so is because the only version I could find with an option for pockets were plus 200% more expensive than the alternative. I even asked the bosses if we could get the women the pants with pockets, since there is only a few of them, but management said only if they opt to pay the difference, and our staff didn't want to. So, there are other reasons why companies supply clothes without pockets. The clothes industry is just shitty. Too many women, at least young women these days, have built a personality around making people proud of them. They are stressed about being perfect at everything, often to the point that it makes them difficult to be genuine friends with because they can't take joy in other people's accomplishments, even those of people they really like. They love having a broad social circle because it reflects well on them as an accomplishment, but it's hard to assess how strong these friendships truly are. School, of course, just reinforces this as they work hard to get praise and good grades in return. However, when they get into the work world and they aren't the paying customers anymore, it can be a real shock when bosses don't praise them every time they do a good job. That is what they are being paid to do, but bosses do mention it every time they make a mistake, so they can fix it and or not do it again. Bosses aren't all the full potential mentors the way teachers and professors are. Outwardly, they may even seem perfect, great looks, great grades, awards, good job, lots of friends, any or all of these. However, inside, they have almost no structure to who they really are. This makes them very sensitive, easy to put off balance, and sources of drama. I rarely see this in straight men. They often have a real core of confidence in their abilities, sometimes too much. Even guys that consider themselves insecure bags of slop still have this real core of knowing who they are outside of other people's approval. Damn, that hit deep. Wearing no makeup. Wearing pants with pockets. / not wanting to wear heels / not wanting to wear dresses or skirts. Farting. Having masculine, short hair. On the flip side, guys, if you want to wear makeup, go right ahead. Shit is fun. I view it as just art supplies for your face. Dear women, do whatever the duck you like. The world is yours. Thanks.